So I was just saying that our keynote speaker really needs no introduction at all. We are really glad to have you again with us. Really happy. I know you are in Australia because there is no way to move from there. So we are happy that this hybrid form, which now has become rather common, and probably will not leave us so early, gives us the opportunity to have you again with us. So you will talk about your vision about Moodle. Probably you will give us some insight of what will be the future of Moodle, what is to be expected in the very next version, and probably also something after that. So I give you immediately the audio. Martin, please.
Thank you. If there's any way for me to see the audience, it would be great, but maybe someone can have a phone connected to the system or something, but otherwise, hello. A pleasure to be here. I have good memories of coming to the Italia MoodleMoot in the past, and I'm really missing out by not being there. In Australia, we have very tough borders, and we've locked the whole country. I haven't travelled for 2 years, so yeah. But I'm here in my little space station and quite happy, and I'm with my family here in Perth, and getting a lot of time to work. And actually, I'm actually enjoying not travelling as well, because I have a lot more time to do things too. So it's pluses and minuses. So we have an hour and a half total here. So there's a 1 hour keynote and then half an hour for a more deeper session. That's a lot of time. I have quite a few things to talk about, but I am hoping that we have a lot of questions. And if I can't get questions from Italians, then there's something very wrong. So I'm sure there will be questions, and I hope we can organise that that we can answer your questions and discuss your questions and have a bit of a discussion here. I can now see the room, and what a fabulous room it is, and you all look very comfortable in your chairs. So hi, thanks whoever fixed that. Hey, all right, that's better. Okay, good. So let's get on and talk about Moodle and what's been happening. I'll share my window. So look, it's the usual to me talking about Moodle and the future. One thing that never changes with Moodle is our values, and the fact we are an open source initiative. We are a project that is values first, that has a purpose first. We are not a software company that is focused on profits. All of our commercial activities are to serve the purpose and our mission. And we do that in a values-oriented way. We focus on education number one at every level. We openness at every level, respect at every level and in every country, every culture. Integrity, just being honest and straight about everything, and we promote innovation at all levels as well. And they're very, very important to me, which is why I'm showing them now, because this is the center of the entire Moodle project and the community. And I feel these things are not talked about enough when we talk about education technology. And towards the end, you'll see what the future and some of the things that we're planning, and I want you to understand that this is the core of that. One thing that happened recently is we were recently certified as a B Corporation. B stands for benefit. And what this essentially means is exactly what we've always done, that we are a purpose-driven organisation. And that we include our stakeholders, we include everybody in the community, and we work hard at that we're not here for profits. So it's been a big time for the Earth. Of course, everyone will always talk about the pandemic, but in the meantime, there are many problems we were already facing before 2 years ago that remain problems. We still have a climate crisis. We still have human rights problems. We still have people having their organs stolen here in the world, and many, many other human rights issues. We have technology moving very fast. We have large companies finally committing to a future of wearable technology, or technology embedded in our bodies or worn on our bodies. And that's very fast. A lot of policies are not keeping up with that. We have a problem of fake news. You can see even in the vaccination debate, where there's some people not wanting to be vaccinated, that in that argument there are a lot of valid viewpoints, but everyone is operating from the news that they know. They're operating from the information they see, and it's harder and harder now to know where you get your information from. What information can you trust? So this is becoming a real issue for humanity, is how can we make decisions if we don't have information? We have recessions. There are a lot of people losing their jobs recently in different parts of the world. We have political struggles. The right and the left is just one of them. It's probably the main thing, but it's becoming more complicated than that. And there is an education crisis, and it's been especially in this last time. So here it is at the peak of the pandemic. 91% of learners were not at school at the same time in April 2020, and the reaction was not so good. Even though there were technologies around that would have helped the situation, they were not used very evenly, they were not used very well. And that's an issue. Like, we still have a lot of things to fix and solve, clearly. And what I'm saying is that I think all of these problems, they come down to education. And we have to get our education really good across the world and at every sector. So we'll get back to that. Let's just look at the Moodle world. In the last year and nearly 2 years, the number of Moodle sites in the world doubled. So it's 185,000 registered Moodle sites. You know there are many more, and in every country. So it's something like 300 million users and large numbers like that. The top countries are here, the top 10 countries. So the country that has the most registered sites is Spain, followed by the US. Italy is not far behind the top 10, 4,500 Moodle sites in Italy. And that's a strong number. And worldwide, Moodle with other LMSs, and this is just looking at higher education now, so just universities mostly. About 2/3 of the world is still using Moodle, and so we really are the mainstream learning platform. And you would think, being the mainstream learning platform, that we would have billions and billions of dollars to work with. That is not the case. We do not. So because of us being a purpose-first organisation, because we are an open source project, a lot of these users do not contribute to the Moodle project, and that's always been part of the deal. But we will rely on Moodle, especially in these times, and I think it's good for us to work together more on it, more and more as we can. So the Moodle world is not just the LMS. The Moodle world, we have the LMS in the middle, of course, But we have a number of products. We have Moodle Workplace, we have Moodle Apps, we have MoodleNet, which I'm going to talk about in more detail. And you might want to know the main programmer for MoodleNet is an Italian, Alessandro. We'll talk with him later. We have Moodle Academy as a service that we are starting up. We have Motocloud for hosting, and of course we have a network of certified service providers, and especially MediaTouch in Italy, that help support and pay for the whole project. So let's go through some of this and what's new, what's happening in the world. We'll start with LMS, of course. So last week, I think it was exactly 20 years since the first code that I put into the Moodle code repository. So the first commit, we call it. I had been working on Moodle already for 6 months before that, but the first time I put it into a source code repository was 20 years ago. And we have not changed. We've grown very consistently in this time, and we remain a powerful platform. I want to, before I go into the news, I want to just highlight one thing about what Moodle was always meant to be, which is that it isn't simply a way to, give content to students and do quizzes and assignments. It's always been meant to be a toolbox that lets you build your own platform. So we don't define exactly how everyone should do education. And if you look at an Air Force or a university or a school or a yoga teacher, they have very different approaches to education. And Moodle is a toolbox that lets you build whatever you need to. So it's designed to be very flexible and modular. But there's one thing in common, one very particular aspect that I want everyone just to reflect on, which is this fact that human beings, that we all learn best while we are constructing a representation of our learning for other people. So, and this is from the research in education and in philosophy and in neuroscience, that while you are creating something to show other human beings, that is when you are learning the best. So we used to say learning by doing, but it's more than that. If you are actually constructing a representation of your learning, that forces the right kind of processes in your brain that help you learn that thing very strongly, and not just to remember some facts, but by constantly teaching, you actually internalize that information. So it becomes part of you, and as it becomes part of you, slowly you become an engineer, you become a pilot, you become a doctor, you become a teacher. And that's how you become a new role. And as educators, our role is to help others become more. So this one little fact, I think it might be useful in your own situation, whatever you're doing, but just to reflect, am I encouraging this? Am I making this happen? The more of this you can get into your courses, the more you can get into your education, the more effective it will be. And I'm saying this because I have seen a big trend towards what I'm doing now, actually, just transmitting information. And that's a worry because very little of information that you read and see actually becomes part of you, and a very low percentage, and we need to improve that. And all this research has been done, and we know it, so that's what Moodle's for. All right, let's get into Moodle. So you will know that we are heading towards Moodle 4.0, and that we've taken a long time already, and we still have some time to go. The big feedback we always got from the community was the user experience isn't good enough. Moodle looks old, Moodle feels difficult, Moodle is complicated, there are too many clicks, it doesn't look like other software that I have on my phone or my iPad or my computer. And that is very, very good, that is very reasonable feedback and very true. So Moodle can look amazing, and that's what a lot of what our Moodle partners do is they make Moodle look amazing by adding customization. But what we want is to make the basic experience of Moodle to be a much higher, better level. So we're taking a user-centered design approach. We're optimizing the user experience for the most critical paths. So the main things people need to do, we're making that easier. And there's a new design language. Now, the reason why we're taking a long time is because Moodle is 20 years old, and you can't change 2 million lines of code in one night. It takes a lot, there's a lot of complexity to the work as well, and so it has been taking some time, but we're making good progress. So here are the key areas that we're working in. So for Moodle 4.0, which is due very early next year, February maybe, the team knows here that it's more important for 4.0 to be good than on time. I think everyone would prefer it was good than exactly on a date. So we've already pushed it back a couple of months, but hopefully not more than that. And we're focusing on the navigation, so how you move around Moodle. For the teacher, we're focusing on how you create courses and all of the steps for creating courses and making that easier. For the student, we've been forcing on how they do a course, so they know where they are and they know what's next and things like that. And for everybody, there's been some work on the dashboard. And there's lots of other things as well, but these are the key areas of UX work. And then, without stopping, as soon as 4.0 is released, the whole team will be working hard on the other areas for 4.1, which we were thinking would be May, but as 4.1 has slipped a bit, there's not enough time to do a lot of work on 4.1, so we are very close to deciding that it will be later into 2022. And the key, it'll be mostly on the activities, so forum, quiz, assignment, all the main standard activities. And for all of those, we're going to look which ones need the most work, and this is a conversation with the community. And then for each one of those, we look, okay, what can we do in assignment, and what can we do in quiz, and what can we do in the workshop through all the activities. We're also looking at multimedia as a focus, and this means that it should be very easy on any device to post and video, audio, and to also see that audio and video and use it very effectively. And this includes documents as well. So we're also looking at Google Documents and Office 365 and Nextcloud, and doing more work on the interface to make them more tightly integrated inside Moodle as well. And the last thing is messaging, because if we look at how we use our devices, I would guarantee that most of you and most of us, probably more than 50% of the time on our devices, we are using messaging. We're either sending text messages or doing video calls or audio or phone calls. We're talking to each other directly. And Moodle is just not very well part of this experience yet. We need to really work on the integration of Moodle into the main way we are talking now. So these are things that you're going to see a lot of changes happening on Moodle.org. So we have a new design for Moodle.org coming soon, probably January, which will have a lot of the stuff thrown away. It's going to be very simple. It's going to say, here is how you can help the Moodle roadmap. and we need a lot of people providing input, helping with testing, and working on and helping us with these problems. These are the big issues through next year. And then also the gradebook. So some of the key focus in the gradebook, key pages in the gradebook that we're going to be studying and fixing. So that's the overall sort of roadmap there. So here's some screenshots of 4.0. There's some pretty login screens. There is on the dashboard and elsewhere better what we call onboarding. So if you're new to Moodle, the user tours have been improved. They'll help you understand what the system looks like for a new person and where things are. You'll also see out here on the dashboard a new timeline block that better describes what's coming up for you. And as a student, that will be things you have to do in your courses. And as a teacher, it'll be, here is something you need to grade and things like that. So we've put another lot of work into the timeline because it's important for...
Sorry, could you say that again? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
That's my phone. I thought I said its name. We have... It's important for everyone to know what's next, and that's also feedback we get from a lot of students. Just tell me what's next. What do I have to do next? I know I've got 6 courses, but what's next? Up here you'll see on this new menu, which is permanent, that there is a My Courses, and this is a navigation to jump between courses that is testing very, very well. Everybody understands what that means. Everybody uses it as the center of their navigation, and it shows you very easily what's going on with courses. And then when you are actually inside a course, you'll see these new larger icons and a new format where these buttons, the done buttons or things you have to do, are very clearly over on the right. And there's a bit more space all around, so we've sort of spaced things out a bit. You'll also see that the menus that were buried under a little cog, a little settings icon, are now here on this menu. This is the second level menu. So this is the first level menu at the top, and there's a second level menu. And the settings and participants, grades, reports and things are all very clickable, very easy to get to, and everything else is here under more. Everything can be collapsed or not collapsed, and that's the main page. And then over here is something completely new. This is what we call the course index. And it's the outline of the course. So it's the same things you see here, but just in abbreviated form. This is on the screen wherever you are in the course. So wherever you are in the course, you can open this up. I think the next slide shows you closed. So this is it closed, and this is it open. And you can jump to another place in the course very fast. And that is testing very well with users. There's a navigation. It's easy to understand. There's also some cool things. If you want to move things around, you can have this on screen, and you can grab something from here and drag it into there to move things around rather than scrolling down a long page, or vice versa. You can also move things backwards and forwards. So that helps you with the designing of a course as well. Now the blocks still exist, and you can see there's a little icon over there, and when you click that, the blocks are still here, so we're still supporting blocks. I know I said maybe some years ago we might get rid of blocks, but they seem pretty important for people who need them, so we're keeping them there. We're just keeping them in one space on the side. And you'll see there are changes at the top as well. There's a new edit mode switch to switch between editing mode and not. It's always permanently in this corner. And all these things have been redesigned for mobile as well. So if you're looking on a mobile web browser, it works well. And all of these things just work. And here you can see the little fold, the course index is down here as a little button floating. And that's really easy. When you hit it, it folds out like this. You click on something else, it goes away. And so that makes the navigation really nice on a mobile. This is not the app. This is the web interface. With the app, it will be getting closer and closer to this experience as well, so that we have a very consistent experience. Another big thing in 4.0 is the addition of a report builder. And this is something from Moodle Workplace that has been in Moodle Workplace for some years. And as we promised, big features from Moodle Workplace will come down into Moodle LMS every release. And this is a big one. So this is a new reporting tool that lets you create custom reports just using the interface. You can choose different sources of the information from around Moodle and combine them into reports. And soon, these reports will also be blocks that you can put on your dashboard. So if you're an administrator or a teacher, you can have little views of things you care about on your dashboard, and you can customize that a lot. So this reporting engine has taken a lot of work to build because Moodle's complicated, but we now have a very good design, a lot of plugins that pull data from different areas, and if you are writing plugins for Moodle, you can support this with a bit of code, and you can say, my plugin provides this data, and then the report builder can pick up on that and combine it and use it with other plugins as well. So this is a very exciting direction for people who really want to manage learning. It is a learner management system after all. Now, as you know, we also have Moodle certified integrations that we recommend with Moodle LMS. And these are the companies with various products that are currently certified integrations. And I wanted to talk about two of them. So in the last version of Moodle, in 3.11, we added support for Brickfield. So Brickfield are good friends of ours, and they have created an accessibility checker that checks your content. So as part of the arrangement, they have created a toolkit that goes in Moodle Core, and it does a good basic check of all of your content to see if it's accessible. And that means, does it work for everybody, even if you can't see or you have a learning difficulty and so on. So that's a standard feature now in Moodle 3.11 and obviously Moodle 4. What they provide is advanced checking. So if you want even more checking and reports, you can get that through a subscription with Brickfield. And a proportion of any money you spend on Brickfield comes back to Moodle and helps support Moodle development as well. And that's the purpose of a certified integration too. So we have another one here, joining in Moodle 4.0, we've now added Big Blue Button support natively. So the plugin we are supporting Big Blue Button properly as a core feature. We've spent a lot of time this year improving the Big Blue Button plugin, and we're going to continue to build and improve that plugin over time, together with the Big Blue Button team. What this means is that everybody out of the box with a brand new Moodle installation and without paying for anything, you can immediately have Big Blue Button working. It will work on the Big Blue Button servers. You don't need to install your own server. It just works. And that means we now have a video conferencing solution native in Moodle that is free. There is limits on that. So I think it's 25 users and certain time limits and no recordings. So if you want those extra features, you can again get those through Big Blue Button and extend the features. So what we're doing here is we're trying to give free features for everybody as much as we can to solve problems that we all have. but also support the people who are making those features, the companies that are making those features. So that's the purpose of certified integrations. All right, I'll go on to apps. Let's talk about the apps. Last year we introduced some different app plans. I'm looking at the room. You're all very far away from the screen. You probably can't read these little words, but essentially we have a free plan that the app as it always was, and it works fine for most people. But if you want more support from more people and more customization, we have these added levels as well. And these have been very helpful. Quite a lot of people, quite a lot of institutions rather, have taken up these pro and premium plans, and that really helps Moodle grow. That revenue is helping to pay for our Moodle app development and make our Moodle app better and better. And we also have a completely branded app. If you want your own app in the store, we can do that for you as well. So you can contact us about that. So currently we have hundreds of branded Moodle apps that our team supports. Now, I mentioned Workplace before. That's going strong. The team is busy with Moodle Workplace features. They're focused on things that are very particularly about learning inside a company, or more short courses and workplace style learning. So there's some very exciting things coming with that. Most of the roadmap is set by our Moodle partners. And so they have a group, a partner advisory group that decides the roadmap for workplace and new features. But there's a lot of improvements coming, mostly in usability as well. And of course, when Moodle 4.0 is available, Workplace 4.0 will take advantage of all of those things, and then it will have even better interfaces for learning plans, teams, 360 feedback, compliance, all these sorts of things as well. And we'll continue migrating some of those features into LMS with every release. It has a slightly different interface as well, but it's going to change with 4.0 soon. All right, so one of the other things we have going is, this was new, this only launched in August, is our Moodle Academy. And the address is moodle.academy. And this is a free online institution that we are building. We have something like 6 staff in the Academy that are building it out as a place to learn about online learning. Now, we already had for some years now the Moodle Educator certification, which is very high quality certification based on 22 competencies, and these are not our competencies, these are European Union competency set called DigCompEdu. And these are the competencies that someone needs to have to be a great online teacher. Professional engagement, digital resources, actually running the teaching and learning process, assessments, how to empower learners, and how to help learners with their digital competence as well. So what we've done is we have built courses in a Moodle context that certify that you know these things. If you can prove you know all 22 of these things and you're doing them, you know what they are, you can get a certificate. And here's the certificate. We have currently 28 Moodle partners that are running the MEC, and it's in 10 languages. And this is a very big part of the Academy. This is like the top of the Academy. So you want to graduate from the Academy, you get an MEC. The rest of the rest of the Academy is how do you get there? How do you learn all these things? And some of the details too. So there are going to be 3 learning pathways. Well, we already have 3 learning pathways, but they're going to get better and better. So there's the Moodle Educator, the Moodle administrator, and the Moodle developer. This one is the one that ends in the MEC. And you can imagine in there lots and lots of courses from basic to intermediate to advanced, and then finally you can get your MEC. And one of those courses can be quite specific. So imagine a course just about using the forum, or a course about gamification, or a course about assignment. So we'll build these out. They will be free. You can access them and go through them at your own pace for free, so a self-paced mode. But they will also be the basis of our training. So if you want to do training, our Moodle partners are doing that training, and they're using the similar materials, but they may translate it into Italian or other languages. So we have a nice consistent training model for getting people up to a full set of skills and a Moodle Educator certificate. And we'll be doing the same with developer next, because we need Moodle developers ourselves, and we want to train our people to be good Moodle developers. So we're doing a similar learning pathway to train our developers, and then we'll be looking at administrators. So yeah, this is the Academy site. Of course, it's Moodle, and it's using Moodle Workplace. So some of the reasons for this are we want people to experience a well-designed Moodle site. So this is our own Moodle site where we can really push what is possible, and we can continue improving and making it a very good example for everybody. I would say now it's a start, but it's going to get better and better as we get more people working on it. Obviously, those things I mentioned so that you can learn from it. And very particularly here, this will be our events. This will be where our events happen. So you're at a MoodleMoot right now, and Moodle, the company, we also used to run 5 or 6 MoodleMoots every year in some different countries. We haven't done that for the last year or two for obvious reasons. Last year we had some online, of course, but what I see happening is I think the whole concept of a MoodleMoot isn't as good a learning experience as it can be. So mostly they are meant to be about learning, right? We have everyone coming together and sharing their experiences and their knowledge, and we learn from each other. And fundamentally, that's what a conference is about. It's a learning experience. Now, of course, we also have drinking in the evenings, and we have coffee, and oh man, I remember the Parmigiano I had last time, the last meal, that was beautiful. But there is that as well. There's the social side too, which is important, and we should continue having social events. But the learning, I don't feel it works very well, because maybe you have 100 sessions, and you only get to go to, maybe 10. So you miss a lot of things, and you can't easily interact with the right people all the time, and so there are advantages to online. So what we're doing at the Academy is basically making it like a MoodleMoot that is happening every day of the year. So the whole thing is always a learning place. And there will be events every week. So we're already having events roughly every and it won't be our team delivering them all. We want the community to be presenting and sharing, and a lot of what they present and share will also be turned into courses on Moodle Academy. And so everyone will be contributing best practice and their learning to make a learning place that we build together. And that's the vision behind Moodle Academy. So at the moment, it's mostly in English, but we have a very strong translation system where we can translate the content of our Moodle pages, and they're all going to be translated into at least 10 languages soon, including Italian, of course. So these are some of the things we hope you'll do. You'll participate. We hope you'll want to become certified. People will get certified. We hope they'll be joining the community discussions. A lot of the things we used to discuss on Moodle.org are going to move here. So this is where we discuss how to use Moodle or everything around using it. You might want to propose new topics. You might want to deliver presentations. We're very happy to use Academy to amplify your voice. You know, if you have something interesting, if you can come on Academy, we can help a lot of people come and listen to you. Give us feedback, help us build courses, translate into languages, and spread the word. So, you know, this is it's almost the new Moodle.org. A lot of what Moodle.org used to be, and it's been there looking the same for 20 years. This is most of the community activity, I think, is going to be here. Moodle.org is going to be much more focused on development and the roadmap. So that's Academy, already open. Come and have a look, get involved, sign up. Love to see you there. Moodle Cloud. So Moodle Cloud, we have not much changes. It just sits there running hundreds of thousands of sites. There are some new larger plans since last November which have been popular. We have some infrastructure upgrades which makes it faster and better, and that's been going well. And something that will be happening next year is that we'll be offering Moodle 4.0 beta sites or just Moodle 4.0 sites. So even if you aren't thinking of upgrading to Moodle 4.0 yet, you can come onto Moodle Cloud and just try it out without having to install anything. So that's something we'll be doing quite soon. The next big new project is MoodleMoot, which we relaunched this year, a few months ago. And MoodleMoot is our answer to content. I'm going to go deeper into MoodleMoot a bit later, but right now, just as an overview, if you haven't heard of it before, it's a place for curating collections of the best educational resources. So there are plenty of resources all over the place. They're all over the internet. YouTube, just do a Google search, you'll find lots of things. And that's the problem. There are too many things. So if you're a teacher and you're trying to build a course about a subject, should every teacher do all of that research? Should they look at everything, evaluate everything? We're hoping that this will be the place where someone who has done that work can collect the best resources for this subject and store them here as links or even uploading things, so that the next person who comes along in that subject can find them really easily and just push them all into their Moodle course. And this is intended to really push the development of Moodle courses. I'll talk about that more later after we stop for some questions on the rest. So that's the Moodle platform. So all of this is the platform. They all work together. I didn't get to talk about MediaTouch, a certified provider in Italy, but Andrea and Emanuela are not strangers to most of you, I think, and they're right there in the room, so hi. Yeah, we have a network around the world of those, and all together we are the ones creating Moodle and pushing it forward, and things have grown. Last year at this time, Moodle had around 70 staff, developers and other people running all of this. Right now we have 150, and that's a big growth in 1 year, and we have very big plans to grow more. So we are really trying to grow and move faster to compete better with all the other things that are out there. I want to finish up the keynote a bit with talking about the future. Now, Moodle, the platform, is working fine. It is 20 years old, and it's written in PHP, as you know. And it's going fine, but we have to also recognize, is the current code, is the PHP code of Moodle what we're going to be using forever? 10 years, 20 years? Probably not. And the internet was very different when I started Moodle 20 years ago. It was a different world. And these days we have different things, and we're building now for the future. So when I look at the things that are happening and the trends, and I look at where we'll be in 5 years or 10 years, I think to make Moodle, as it currently is, be that platform is very difficult. And I still think there's lots of life in Moodle yet, currently. At least 5 years. But we have to start thinking about the next generation. And so we now have an opportunity to start from zero, to invest in some research about what is the perfect platform for the future. And keeping to the values. So openness, right? And respect, innovation. What is a platform everyone can help to build, that everyone shares, that is open and free, that allows learning using the devices of the future? So here's a few things that influence this decision. So augmented reality and virtual reality. I've been a big follower, a fan of these technologies since 1995. In 1996, I had one of the early VR helmets, VFX1, and it was pretty hard to use back then. But if you look at what's happening these days, you can see that the promise of this stuff is actually coming. And so what this is basically is that instead of having a device like a phone, that most of the time your screen will actually be on your face, and it'll be glasses. Apple are building them, Facebook are building them, Google are getting back into it, hundreds of other companies are building it. It's on the edge of happening. It might be 5 years before we all have one, but it's coming. How does the current Moodle work in this environment? Not very well is the answer. And that's something we need to be looking at, is where's the place of how do we do education when the internet is on top of the real world a lot of the time? And we need to think about that. So that includes all devices, those devices, but there's other devices too. A lot of us now will have little headphones, and a lot of people are walking around with headphones permanently in our ears, and that kind of wearable, the idea that we wear technology, is becoming more common. How do we, again, do education into someone's ears? And Moodle's not very good at that right now. It could be if we designed it for that. Messaging, I already mentioned. A lot of the internet now is just messaging, and there are many messaging platforms. We need to think how education and messaging fit together very well. Blockchain, obviously the main technology behind cryptocurrencies, but also a way to distribute responsibility, and it's useful for things like certifications, it's useful for assessments, and these are things we should be looking at. How do we build communities into our learning platform? So maybe you're teaching engineering, and you've got an engineering course online. Well, where are the engineers? Maybe you've got one engineer, the teacher. Where are all the other engineers? How can we connect the learners with the practitioners? How can we have real engineers giving real engineering problems into the classrooms, then work on it in a safe way? And how do we help those students become engineers? And it feels like the community and the learning needs to be more joined. And of course, this is exactly what's happening on places like YouTube, where you have experts directly teaching everybody. They aren't lecturers, they aren't university or school teachers, they are just, people who make stuff or people who do stuff, and they're expressing that. And a lot of people are learning that way. So we need to, I think it's important for us to make our new learning platform use that very well. You, as a teacher on your new platform, you should be able to reach beyond the school and the university. And as a learner, you should be able to access lots of teachers from around the world. But how do we do it in a way that isn't like YouTube, where it's completely Wild West? There's no quality checks. There's no, it could be fake news, right? Great teacher, fake news. It also, on YouTube, there's no assessment. There's no recognition of your learning, and that's what institutions provide. So how can we fit in providing the same kind of experience, but in a way where you get recognition? And that brings me to open skills. So there are people working on a way to store and recognize skills in a global way, in an open way, that covers all cultures and all countries and languages. And that's something we need to have built into Moodle from the beginning. So when you learn something, you're able to prove you learned that thing, and people can also understand that you've learned that thing in a good way. This is a very short word, but a very, very, very big topic. AI, artificial intelligence. It's creeping into our lives at every level. We're talking to our phones, we're talking to our watches. We also, if you're using something like Gmail, you will notice, or most online mail packages, you type something, did you really mean this? Do you want to say that? So the AI is becoming an assistant to our lives and to every activity, and more so, that this will just continue increasing until it starts taking away simple jobs. A lot of administration jobs will disappear because the AI is handling it. And in the learning process, I think teachers and students both will need assistance. I want to see computer assistance for teachers so that one person can teach 100,000 students well, like really well. Because they have a lot of assistants that are helping them. And just like you would with real human being assistants, you would say, can you take care of this? Can you take care of that? Or here's this idea, do this, do that. So you become more of a director, and the AI is helping you with the actual implementation. And everyone gets a good experience. AIs are not meant to make things harder, they're meant to make things easier. So if we can optimize the learning process using technology, I'm good with that. I'm not a big fan of AIs being the teacher. And some computer scientists are working on that. Personally, I don't like the disconnection between human beings completely. I think it's important for us to have a human connection from a teacher role to the student role. And I think we just need to build our technology in a way that keeps that. Because otherwise, what are we all doing, right? What is humanity doing on this planet if we just outsource all our education to, Google or Microsoft? It's going to be quite a bad scene eventually. If you look at what Facebook does to the world, you get a sense of what an AI-driven machine with algorithms can start doing to people's minds. And we need to have people in there. Especially when we go all the way and we talk about mind interfaces. So, Elon Musk has invested in a company called Neuralink. They're already showing very promising tests for wires planted in the brain, where you can directly influence a computer just by thinking, and it works. I think it's a long time before all of us will be sticking wires in our brain, but the next generation, who knows? And it turns out we don't even really need to stick wires in someone's brain to understand what they're thinking. If you add up all of the data that we put into our machines, the AIs can actually already know where we are. And this is how Facebook works, right? Facebook is continually manipulating everybody by, oh, here's all the information, here's what they're interested in. They build up a model of each person, and they now interact with that model, and they start programming the model. They start sending particular messages to everybody to make them come back onto Facebook, to make them do this, to make them do that. And you start having influence. So there is possibility in a learning tool to really look at what data students are providing and actually use this for good. How can we influence students to enjoy their learning, right? To enjoy becoming an engineer. Like I keep using engineering as one example, but like, how do we make the platform a very powerful learning influencer? So not just sending information. We have so much information, but how do we teach, and how do we grow a very good next generation for everybody? So this is some of the thinking, and I have a lot of ideas for the actual implementation as well, but I'm not going to go into them now. What I actually am planning is sometime in February, probably, next year, we'll have a conference, and I want to get people together to talk about this topic, the future. And I'll have a lot of people presenting short, like Pecha Kucha style presentations, and we'll get a lot of ideas in the room to start working on this. And I think for the next year or two, it's mostly just going to be research, and we won't start building until later. But that in about 4 or 5 years, the new platform will be ready so that the people on the current Moodle platform, you can migrate. And we have a very strong system. And please be aware, I'm not talking about just another downloadable software package. I'm talking about a world infrastructure, something more like the internet, something that, you buy a new television from LG, you switch on your television, and there will be an app on the television called My Learning, and you go straight into it. Or you get your new AR glasses and there's My Learning app in there. So this is kind of it's got to be a very large project with a lot of people working together. And over the next years, this is going to be my focus, to just try and bring people together around this concept. And it might not even be called Moodle anymore, I don't know. That's one of the things to be discussed. But I feel like the future is so important to solve the big problems that we need to rethink how we do education on a global scale. And Moodle's in a place that, we have some influence where we can actually talk about that. I have a lot of other slides here that will tell you about this concept and some of the work that's happening around open edtech. But we are going to be launching the Open EdTech Association early next year, and the point of that is to start bringing together open-minded companies to really join into helping building this new infrastructure on top of the internet. And there's a lot of work to do, but I won't go into that now. We don't really have enough time. But I'll stop here. Maybe there's some more questions before we get on to the next bit, which is mostly going to be about MoodleNet.
Any questions? Any discussion? Anybody?
Thank you very much, Martin. Are there questions? Paula?
I have always questions for you, Martin and Paula.
Yay.
Yay. So the last word was open. And my question is about open software and open content, because after COVID crisis, we feel that the open source and open content community were not able to give a quick response to the problem. So we have practically lost terrain after years and years and years of these political discourses, just like that, to solutions that were quick enough but not good. What is your thoughts about that?
Yeah. Well, openness, I'm getting some feedback. Hopefully it's okay for you. Maybe we can mute the microphone a bit. Anyway, openness means we are all involved. Openness means that it's everyone's responsibility. If you want to give me billions of dollars, then I can do more as one person. But I don't have billions of dollars, and it's impossible to react to a situation as fast as Microsoft or Google. And we did try and do that. Last year, we were working in a lot of countries trying to build infrastructures with Moodle in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia. And we would propose, here's a big Moodle cloud for you, for your country, for all the schools. And we got our partners together, we'd work on it, and of course, we can't do it for free. This stuff costs money to have so many servers. So, we would have a price on it. And then Microsoft would come along and say, we can just give you Teams for free. And countries would go, okay, we'll go get Microsoft Teams. And that's difficult because, as we know, eventually it won't be free. And it'll be expensive, and you'll be tied into subscriptions forever. So selling the concept of open during a pandemic was difficult. And I know, we had a lot of growth. We saw 40% growth at Moodle, which is why we have more staff. We saw some growth, but I think the biggest companies saw the most growth. And in addition, there was a lot of venture capitalists who, looking at the situation, were like, well, where do I invest my money? Online learning looks like an exciting, growing area. And so they were putting a lot of money into startups and Zoom and, all of these things. And billions and billions of euros invested in online learning companies over the past couple of years. Very few of them were like, how do we stimulate open infrastructure, right? They're like, how can we control the market? How can we own this world? And of course, because they're profit-driven, they're required to get returns, and they're very much traditional profit-driven companies. Of course, I was offered to sell Moodle many, many, many times, and I said no, of course. But it's a difficult thing. What it comes back to is everybody needs to make decisions for openness all the time. So even right now, we're using Google Meet. We could have used Jitsi. It would have worked fine. In fact, Jitsi is an amazing video conferencing platform. If you haven't seen it, give it a try. Also Big Blue Button, also others. And I think by supporting open, as the Moodle community has always done, we have the strength to make our products better, to compete better, and also to market better. And part of the Open EdTech Association, the reason for it to exist is to market open education technology, just to sell the idea, to lobby the EU directly for grants, to get it into people's heads. I mean, if I was a parent with kids in school, I should be saying, does my school use open education technology? Because I believe in it. And that's the kind of thing I think we should be trying to solve. So it's we need help, and we need your input.
Thank you. Do you have other questions? Yeah?
Hello, Martin. I'm Cosmin Herman. I'm from Romania. Yes, my question is, since Moodle is open but is not free, why did you free the reports from workplace and made it available for free in Moodle? What is the logic behind it?
I think you're talking about, so Moodle is open and free, but you're talking about Moodle Workplace and why we moved the report builder And it's because Moodle Workplace is part of the platform. It's the part of the platform where if you want these advanced features early, you can buy them. And that money helps pay for the Moodle development, all of it, the Moodle platform. It's something also to strengthen our partner network, because only our partners have access to Moodle Workplace. So that's another good reason to be a partner and to stay a partner. And it also lets some of the marketing be a bit separate, because the way workplace LMSs are talked about and the way they're used is quite different from universities and schools. And if you mix up the marketing, the messages too much, nobody benefits. So being able to separate the messages was also good. So those are the reasons for the existence of Workplace. And the reason why we move things down into LMS is because I want to demonstrate that Workplace is directly powering the development of Moodle. It exists to power Moodle LMS. The Moodle LMS product is the main product, and it's the one everything exists for. All of them are supporting the platform and the open source code. So, yeah. It's okay, because Workplace always has new features, and over time they'll come down to LMS eventually. Any other? Does that answer you? I hope that answered your question, Cosmin, and everyone else. Is there any other questions, thoughts?
Pronto? Ok.
Se avete altre domande anche in italiano possiamo tradurle. So I have another one for you. It's something that the teachers from schools asked me to ask you before I came here today. So if in the vision for the future there are some special measures that are going to offer an easy way to implement at small schools, Moodle, so features like interfaces adapted for children, and you know, simpler platforms and things like that, because this seems to be, at least in Italy, the problem for us as a country, management of highly complex platforms.
Well, there's two sides to that. The first one is the UX work we're doing for Moodle 4.0, I think will help schools too. It's going to simplify a lot of things, make it easier to understand for teachers and students. That will help quite a lot. The second part is, in the end, as I said at the beginning of my talk, actually, Moodle is a platform so that you make your own LMS. So you need to make a school LMS for the particular school. And the administrator has a lot of choices, turning off features, turning on features. You need to design your Moodle installation for this particular environment. And that's a skill. That's why we have a Moodle administrator's learning path coming up on Moodle Academy, because we want to teach people how to do that. But you can also go to a Moodle partner. I think MoodleMoots are a perfect place for this to discuss. I mean, can I have any hands? Actually, how many people are using Moodle at schools, like school level? Anybody? Yeah, see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands, 6, 7. Okay, go talk to each other, because like there are probably, you have wisdom, you already know the answers to these things probably already, and I've seen Moodle used in schools very successfully, and it just takes configuration and education. So you know, Moodle partners can help with that, the community can help with that. We have talked about making a Moodle schools version that is pre-configured, and the first thing we did towards that is in Moodle 4.0, I didn't mention, but we've integrated something that was called Moodle Flavors. And this was some code that was in the community for a few years, and it's now standard in Moodle 4.0, which means you can configure a Moodle site and you can save the configuration to a file, and you can bring it to another Moodle site and load the configuration, and now that site is configured the same. And in the Moodle core system, we have a switch that lets you choose the settings. We are debating whether to have, for the first install, that the administrator can choose, I want a simple Moodle. And the simple Moodle will have a lot of things switched off, and it'll be very simple. If that's going to be better, that's a community discussion. Should that be the default setting of Moodle or not? But I could easily see over time, as people get this, we start sharing configurations. Those 7 people in the back can work together on a good default configuration for Italian schools and publish it on Moodle.org or Moodle Academy. And then eventually somebody says, let's get this into core, and we put it into core. And then later on the menu, you can say, I want Moodle set up for Italian schools. Click, bang, all this configuration is done. So it's quite easy to do all that now that we have this in core. So that would be a cool thing. Hopefully that helps. I think I have about 13 minutes. I would love to tell you about MoodleMoot. Is that okay? Can we move on? And we'll have a bit more questions. I only need 10 minutes for this, and then we can have some more questions at the end. Okay? All right, I'm just going to move on. I can't hear anything, so let me show you some stuff. So we have here in the room 2 members of the MoodleNet team. We have the product manager of MoodleNet, Paul Hodgson. So maybe switch on your camera, Paul. I'm not sure if you can or not, but he's here. Oh, there's Paul. Hi. And we have the lead developer of MoodleNet, which is Alessandro Giansanti. Maybe switch on your camera.
Hello. Hello.
So MoodleNet is mostly built by an Italian. Stay there, Alessandro. But maybe you want to introduce yourselves, have a few words about what you do and your background and what you're working on. Maybe how about Alessandro go first?
Ok.
In Italian, go for it.
Ok, ciao a tutti. Sono felicissimo di essere qui e sono contento di essere qui a presentarvi MoodleNet. Certo, non sono la persona più indicata per un discorso di prodotto, nel senso che sono il lead developer, quindi magari posso parlare più approfonditamente della parte tecnica. Comunque, in pratica, MoodleNet è un nuovo prodotto di Moodle open source, costruito su tecnologie diverse rispetto agli altri prodotti Moodle. È scritto completamente in JavaScript, TypeScript più che altro. Sì, come ha detto Martin, vuole coprire la necessità che è stata trovata per molti educatori di poter trovare facilmente risorse per le proprie lezioni e per i propri corsi. La parte più importante che ci sta dando al nostro team più impegno, diciamo, sono la possibilità di fare federazioni di istanze di MoodleNet, perché MoodleNet sarà comunque un prodotto open source che può essere scaricato e installato in qualsiasi on-premise, quindi nella nostra struttura, nella nostra infrastruttura. Ogni organizzazione che installa MoodleNet può curare, organizzare e collezionare risorse come la propria base di utenti, probabilmente spesso interni all'organizzazione, ma il punto chiave, diciamo, della funzionalità di MoodleNet è la possibilità di federare. Non è ancora implementata la cosa, ma è questa la direzione. In pratica ogni istanza di MoodleNet potrà agganciarsi a delle istanze particolari che saranno chiamate probabilmente directories o centri di federazione, dove tutte le istanze potranno condividere le proprie risorse con altre istanze. Praticamente accedendo ad una istanza di federazione, ma anche dalle proprie istanze, si può navigare e cercare risorse anche provenienti da altre istanze di MoodleNet. Questa è una delle features chiave di questo nuovo prodotto su cui stiamo lavorando. Tra l'altro abbiamo appena rilasciato e pubblicato la versione 2.0. Diciamo, è la 2.0 perché è stata ho lavorato anche l'anno scorso con un diverso team sulla 1.0, ci sono stati, diciamo, dei problemi di design delle feature dell'esperienza utente, quindi è stato praticamente riscritto da zero. Diciamo, vedo questo 2.0 un po' come la prima versione, forse, la prima vera versione che funzionante e che sta avendo, come dire, una proiezione verso il futuro per nuovi sviluppi, insomma. Sta andando bene, è disponibile, quindi la nostra nel senso di Moodle, istanza pubblica all'indirizzo moodle.net, e quindi stiamo collezionando in questo periodo utenti e stiamo cercando di collezionare risorse di qualità e collezioni di risorse di qualità. Appunto, prodotto open source, quindi sicuramente sono qui anche a invitarvi a testarlo, scaricarlo, vedere il codice e contribuire. Stiamo cercando anche prossimamente di fare coinvolgere il più possibile sviluppatori e cioè creare una comunità anche tecnica di sviluppatori. Quindi sì, vi invito a questo, a testarlo, vederlo, e siamo sicuramente in attesa di feedback il più possibile da chiunque per poter migliorare e andare avanti con il prodotto. Per quanto riguarda vabbè sì, sicuramente adesso non andrò verso i dettagli tecnici, quindi penso che potrebbe essere abbastanza ciò che ho detto. Ovviamente se avete già qualche domanda siamo qui per rispondere, anche se probabilmente molti di voi ancora non conoscono il prodotto. Comunque, forse maybe I can leave the word to Martin or Paul, I don't know, because
Sure.
I know that Paul and Martin maybe probably understood just 5% of what I said, because I just
Maybe 10%.
I'll let Paul introduce himself.
But I just said good stuff about MoodleNet, I promise.
It's okay, I understand. Paul, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you, Paul.
Can't hear you, Paul, yeah.
Now, you're not muted on Google. It's your end, I think. Oh. All right, I'll keep going, Paul, in the meantime. So, yeah, Paul has joined us, what, 4 or 5 months ago? As the product manager for MoodleNet, as a team lead, is driving the development, and we have other members as well, and it's a lot of growth planned. But at the moment, MoodleNet is still a sort of experiment that we are trying out, and we have been spending a lot of time to get something together that is suitable for testing and using, and so we can start understanding the next level. And I'm going to just share my screen again. Oh, I was already. How about that? So yeah, hopefully you can see my screen now. Someone might need to switch. So the idea is that we need something to help when you have a blank screen, when you're starting a course, something to get you going to get that course working. And we're trying to build it in the most open way we can, in the most user-friendly way we can. Here is the current team, which will be expanding next year. And at the moment, probably the two main things we're working on are the content itself and building a development community of users. So if you're interested in getting involved, reach out to the team, probably Paul or Alessandro, and they'll connect you up with the right place. So you may obviously know we had a previous version of MoodleNet which used different technologies. It didn't quite work out. We started again. I'm very confident what's happening now is really working well. And every piece of content has a lot of metadata, so that it's categorized and easy to find. But I think it's better if I just show you. So here is a particular resource in Moodle.net, which is our installation of MoodleNet. This is completely open source, so you can download this software and install it yourself for your own institution, for your own purposes, and run your own system like this. And soon next year we'll be federating them so that you'll be able to search across all of the MoodleNet sites to find things. So say I want to search for the letter E. Eventually this search will work not only on things that are in this site, but they'll search all across the network. And this is why it's MoodleNet, because it's a network of these servers. But I think you can agree it looks really nice, that it's got a good user experience. It works very nicely on mobile screens too. It's all designed to be responsive. It's very fast. I can see some people that I'm following. And it's meant to be a place that we as educators can build up our profile, build collections of resources. People can follow each other, they can like things, and we're talking about a gamification of this, something like Stack Overflow or other systems on the internet, where as you get better and you get more engaged, you go up and up and up and you become more powerful in the system so that you become an administrator eventually, and that you have responsibilities. So that's some of the thinking about how to build an open system that isn't full of rubbish, because, as you know, the internet is full of spammers and people who want to upload all sorts of stuff. So our challenge is to get high quality content and keep things open. So very quickly about the future, I should point out here that every time you are looking at a resource that's been listed in Moodle, you can send it to your Moodle site. And so every MoodleNet server can be connected with a Moodle server. So this is how you send it. And the first time you tell it, oh, this is where my Moodle server is. And then when you go there, after you click send, every Moodle since Moodle 3.9 will accept the link and it will start putting it into your course for you. And so there are also some settings from the Moodle LMS side to connect up a MoodleNet server so that you can go the other way. When you're in an empty course and you go to the add an activity or resource, you'll start seeing this down here to help you find some content on MoodleNet. And this is the first integration. It's not very deep yet. We're going to be making this better and better. So eventually you can easily get off to the MoodleNet site and then come back again with your content. So we'd love you to use MoodleNet. We'd love you to contribute. There is a MoodleNet tracker with feature requests and suggestions. We especially want institutions to start testing it, run your own server, test it, and talk to Paul or Alessandro about that, because we really want to build these first adopters, the team of people who are going to decide where this goes, to make it better and better. And we need your testing in a real environment to make it excellent. You can contribute as well. Moodle, the company right now, is the one that is investing in this. We are paying for the core team, and as most of that money comes from our Moodle partners, we don't want to be pouring so much money to something that we're just giving away completely as open source without a good reason. We'd love you to think about how you can contribute. Funds are one way, but also developers. If there's any developers who are interested in this, maybe they're just like Moodle, they're working on your installation, and you can work with us and the team and Alessandro to do some of the things that need to be done. And we want this to start absorbing all the other OER projects. I'm hoping this is the first point you'll go to when you want new open education content, because it'll be curated for you, and you'll be able to find anything that's anywhere through MoodleNet, and you'll get to know the quality of things through MoodleNet. So that requires a lot of people to be helping with the content. So that's it on that. I'll stop presenting. Oops, stop sharing the window. There we go. Any final questions on MoodleNet? Because I know we've got to the end of the time, and you probably have coffee and delicious things waiting. And I have.
Okay. So thank you really very much. We don't have enough time for some more questions. So okay. I really want to thank you all for this broad and deep insight of what is going on with Moodle. I hope to have you again, possibly in presence in one of our next MoodleMoots. Thank you very much again.
I have one more piece of news. There will be a global MoodleMoot in September in Barcelona, and we're planning 600 people. So come, see you in Barcelona.
Okay, thank you again.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.